What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning The Dr. Vibe Show. I have hosted and produced over 2,000 epic conversations over the last 10 years. And what makes our conversations epic? We don't do interviews. We do conversations. Hey, everybody. What is up? It's Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show. I'm also a certified men's empowerment coach, and I'm getting to be on Blab a little bit these days, but that's not a bad thing, especially when I have company like these two gentlemen. For those who do not know about us, I have, with a fine jacket and shirt and glasses, Mr. Glenn Barker of the Mankind Mankind Project. Is a product. He's a product of the project, not the projects, but the project, and a Mankind product. As I said again, Mankind Project in Chicago, and also have Dr. Marvin Thompson from New Orleans, Louisiana, and we're getting to be regulars here in a good way on Tuesday nights, doing shows for men and those who love them, and looking forward to another great sharing tonight. Glenn, how we doing?
Well, clearing up a bit of a cold.
Okay.
First, foremost, doing very well. Thank you, everybody. What we're looking to do, for all you that have been with us some time, we've asked Dr. Thompson to actually do an introduction and a recap. But if you've been with us at all through a series, we've talked about things important to men and the way men act in the world and what we can do for each other to grow ourselves as better men. One of the things I'd like to do now is begin a series. So who's ever with us now, listen to the next 4 programs in a row, because we're going to talk about how men are hardwired. And for a bit of reflection, our Dr. Thompson from the Lighthouse Foundation, I think can articulate where we've been and bring us up to today. So if that works for you, Dr. Thompson, would you take over and kind of catch everybody up, refresh everyone to where we're at today, and help us launch this series of archetypes, the inner wiring of men.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. And thank you, Glenn, and Dr. Vi for the intro. For all the listeners who've been with us, and for the new listeners, we spent the last several weeks talking about various characteristics of men that we find in all people, but specific to men. We've looked at, one, the lies that we tell ourselves as men, that really shape who we are and how we respond to our surroundings. So it's the story that we make up. So if you go back to I think we ran 3 weeks on this at the viewer's request, because it was such an in-depth article or a topic. And we had some really great guests on who began to connect with that in their own lives. And which is really the theme of this show, is that we begin to recognize these things in our own lives and be able to understand them. But the lies that we tell ourselves, if we go back, really talked a lot about our own experiences and how we created stories around those experiences, and then how we reacted or responded or shaped perceptions around them. And they really were not always true. They were true to us, but we never dealt with them. We just accepted them. And these become the lies. So we started with that concept, and then we moved into agreements, which was really a great connection that Glenn led us through to understand how we further the lie by committing to agreements. One, we either make commitments or agreements based on the lie that we made up, which furthers the lie and the story that we tell. And we talked about generational cyclical poverty. We talked about cyclical behaviors and families and as individuals that we have when we start seeing patterns. So we recognize agreements that we make, some that we make up. We make assumptions with those agreements. We talked about how we think we made an agreement with someone, but not fully understanding what the outcome would be, not clarifying what they would be. And then we have discourse. And then we make up another story about either the individual, the event, or ourselves. And this is why I'm excited about really capturing those two concepts, because once you begin them, you think, wow, I think I got it. I think I have what this is all about. I'm excited about where Glenn is going to be taking us, because this is the part where you really start to recognize who you are as an individual. I think this series is going to allow us to connect to the story, the lie that we told ourselves, the lie that we made up. When you begin to fashion and begin to understand and fashion who you are, what journey in life, that story that you made up is really all about, and what type of archetype of a man that you are. In working with Glenn, I went through this process, and it was a lot of realities came to light for me as an individual. A lot of insight came to me from the work that I had been doing over the last 25 years. I had an insight to understanding some of the dynamics, but not putting it into this context. I probably worked harder at getting at it. Had I known these things earlier, it really helped me recognize some of the observations I was making, not only in myself, but with those that I was working with. So these archetypes, whether it's the lie that you tell, whether it's the agreements that you make, and we haven't even gotten into other components of manhood, such as integrity and compassion, and how they factor into this. So Glenn's going to take us through what I just find the most fascinating aspect of pulling all of these little layers together for the individual, because this is what this is about. It's about you, the individual, to be able to really connect with yourself in the context of the story that we tell, whether it's the different archetypes that Glenn's going to take us through. And I'm not going to spoil it anymore, because I'm really excited to see how the listeners respond to this and really connect with it, because these will bring everything we've discussed in the previously and everything we're ever going to discuss in the future, really bring in time together. So at this point, Glenn, I'm going to turn it over to you, my friend.
What a wonderful recap and introduction and honoring of the work. Thank you, Dr. Thompson. So this is going to be fun. And so I'm going to ask our audience to be very interactive. And Dr. Vibe, bring folks in early, because I'm going to be asking questions rather than doing a seminar or a lecture. Men
Right.
and women and audience, if we could think of ourselves, especially men, what if everything that we were really boiled down to 4 characters? 4, only 4. One of them was like a king, and all that encompasses that generative, wonderful power of actually being a leader and being a visionary and doing good. There's a whole world around kingship that is hardwired in every man, but it's how it's developed or stymied, or he's encouraged, or he's been cut down, is how that grows or not grows, and what shape it grows, or how straight and true it grows. The next archetype or part that's in every single man is a warrior. Right? This is that dedicated, committed, focused aggression that can, yes, be wonderful and very destructive. It's in every man. And we're going to go through that aspect and all the parts and how it interacts with a king or thinks it's separate. It's a fascinating journey, everybody. The next part of a man that develops well or not, right, is a magician. And that's the realm of the intellect and the intuition, right? This is where we get our scientists and our mathematicians and our inventors and our sorcerers and our manipulators. This is where men are actually quite brilliant, right? And these powers are either used or they use us. The last one is the part that gives us humanity. It's the lover. That part of us that longs for connection, that sees beauty in the rock, in the stream, in the sky, that wants to be in connection. If it wasn't for this lover, the king and the warrior and the magician would be so remote that they would not be human. Now this lover part of us too can go very wrong and run our lives. So what we're going to explore first is this warrior piece. Let's give a little background, and I'm going to ask folks come in early, so please wave your hands. Who recognize? Let's go back to maybe we're 12 years old, right? There's heroes. Who remembers heroes? We can name a few. Remembers heroes? So let me hear some names. Dr. Vibe, what were your heroic figures as a youth?
Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali, there's a heroic figure, right? Make some notes, and we'll talk about what made him heroic. What made him heroic to you? What was it about
You
that
want me to
hero?
answer that right now, or
yeah, you can do that.
because he overcame odds. You know, he overcame being taken away from his profession, what he loved, because of what he believed, and he came back and became the top of his game.
There's a great.
So he fought for what he believed,
right? And he's
also too as his not superheroes, but more. I didn't deal with too much of the comic book stuff. I dealt more with the people I could see either on TV or see in real life. So he sticks out in one of them.
Great. And this is what I'm going to ask the audience to do. Jumped in, and Dr. Thompson, tell us about your heroic figures, the bigger than life heroes.
Mine is easy. Malcolm X, to me, was a hero, and the reason I say that is, you mentioned the archetypes. Early on in his life, he was a lover. I mean, that's what he did. But he moved and progressed to a shadowy part of it, and I know you'll get into that. But he continuously transformed himself, and that lover part transformed him into a lover of people, and it never stopped. And that's, to me, was a constant learner. He was constantly evolving. He was constantly questioning himself in the pursuit of the goal he had already established. He never let go of the goal, but he never had a problem adjusting, even acknowledging he was wrong. And I just found that fascinating. To me, that's just a pursuit of perfection.
I'm going to go into superheroes.
We
have someone who wants to jump in?
Okay, no problem.
We want this to be fun. Come on in, everybody. We have someone
who... Sarita T. Douglas said, as well as Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey was a hero for her also.
Yeah, I would agree.
So, and I'll talk in the realm of superheroes because those are real human heroes. I'll also say, like, okay, Superman, right, or any of these wonderful comic book type heroes. Superpowers, right? Real do-gooder guys. So, let's do this. Let's walk through some of the attributes so that everyone listening to can get this context around the hero, the warrior, also samurais. There's lots of versions of this, right? So there's heroes, superheroes. There's like the soldier, right? It's a heroic figure. And then there's a more sophisticated version, like a samurai, right? And so what we're going to go through somewhat is the boy and the hero, right? Kind of the younger man in his 20s being like the soldier, the white knight kind of guy, and then the more seasoned version, which is the samurai, and all this is under the category of warrior. Men have this, and how we develop or not shows up big time in our lives. So it's going to be fun and exciting. But men, some of the attributes, I'm going to contend that it's hardwired. It's not software. Meaning that we all have it in us. But how we're conditioned is the software part. How the warrior is conditioned is how he shows up or not. I'll start out with aggressiveness. Isn't aggressiveness a part of every warrior, Dr. Vibe? Being aggressive, Dr. Vibe?
Absolutely.
Would that be a warrior trait?
Absolutely, I agree.
Anything else that you would want to attribute to the warrior? What other attributes?
Fighting for good, like a lot of the superheroes, like they were fighting for good and justice, you know, and overcoming the odds, and yeah, those are two of them. I have more, but those are two of the ones, you know, fighting for justice and overcoming the odds, and a savior.
There you go. Everybody makes notes. We're going to come back to these. There's a test later.
Yeah, and on the side, well, no, I know, but on the side, there's also Sarita T. Douglas is great. Bravery and selfless.
There you go. Make some notes, everybody. Bravery, selfless. We're going to come back to these. What else? Chime in our audience as well.
Dr. T?
Well, I would say loyalty.
There you go.
You know, what loyalty is a huge part of a warrior, and I think a lot of the warriors, and Glenn, I'm going to respond to it in the context of the superhero that model that you've thrown out. They're protectors.
Oh yeah.
They're protectors. Dr. Vibe, you mentioned that they're defenders. They're heroic, but I think their number one drive when you look at them is that they're protecting others. And there's another piece, Glenn, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to leave this early because I know you're going to come to it. I think a lot of heroes carry pain into the battle. And many of them use that pain as energy. And this is part of the story that they bring with them. And Glenn, it's funny. I was a comic book buff as a kid. I mean, my vocabulary grew not because of what was happening in school, but if you ever read a comic book, the dialogue in those comic books is pretty rich, right? So I used to have to read comic books with a dictionary. And one common theme amongst all superheroes is they had an unusual encounter or an experience, some of them painful, loss of something. Spider-Man got bitten by a spider. Right? Superman's planet was blown up and he was separated from his family, never to be seen again and adopted. Wolverine was captured by the army and his bones were transformed, transplanted with titanium, which was extremely painful. And he has these flashbacks. There's not a superhero that does not have a negative experience or some unusual encounter that they use to channel into that loyalty, protect all the dynamics and characteristics we're talking about. And I think a lot of us, a lot of our men in our lives today, particularly the warrior part of it, my dad used to always say, men who win fights have a reason to fight, right? And to me, I think that's where that protector component comes in a great deal. And sometimes we create our own battles.
Or the Avenger, right? I'm fighting on.
Or the Avenger, right?
The Avenger.
Right.
I'm representing part of my own wound. And isn't that true of us as people? I don't believe we could relate to these things, right? Think about movies and all this. If it wasn't really part of us. So a lot of this dialogue says it's out there. The truth of it is, if we're relating to it, it's in here. These are versions of us. And Dr. Thompson is spot on. I know I will fight more for an individual that had the same wounding that I had, because I know what it feels like. And now that I'm a strong man, I am a defender and protector, right, of certain kinds of violations. And I am vigilant and I am quick to the draw, right? And I spot it because I got it. Right? And I got to watch it or I could be that same kind of abuser. This is important. And Dr. Thompson, that's what gives this hero humanity. And these writers are wonderful in connecting the woundedness, right, as the driving force, right, for the protector part of the hero. This is marvelous. Let's talk about some other aspects. I'm going to thin slice this and say, what other parts of the aggressive hero, warrior, samurai, what do we admire?
Okay, I'm gonna chime in because the viewers are putting in, and you may not be able to see, but integrity.
Let's write some of these down, everybody. Integrity.
Perseverance.
Staying with it.
A champion. Intuitive.
I like what Regeneration LBC said. Dr. Vibe, what did he say? Have a friend that says a man that doesn't want to lose can never be beat. Can never be beaten.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you know what? I'm just going to shout out to everyone who's on right here. To Tony, to Regeneration, to Strategic Dad, to Sarita, and also I see someone new that I've not seen on before, Guido Conroy. Thank you so much. Also, another characteristic, Regeneration LBC, resilience.
Isn't that great?
Wow, you know what? You guys are hitting it out of the park tonight. I'm telling you, when I hear Glenn go, ooh,
this is
that's a good.
This is what I want. I want our audience to connect with these virtues. What are the wonderful virtues of this part? And these are the things that we admire. These are the things that are the best part of ourselves by being aggressive. These are very aggressive, assertive humans. But we love them. Why?
And here's your Generation X has another one. Invictus equals unconquerable.
Oh, you can't keep this guy down, can you? This or women, right?
Right.
There's just
right.
You gotta have to kill him. This is not going to be. It's unstoppable, right? Wow. Let me hit some other things too, and please make notes, everybody, because I want to come back to these things. How about the warrior lives lives of lofty ideals, right? This is what we talked about too, right? He lives in the light of lofty ideals. One of the notes I had.
And Strategic Dad says, Bible says we are more than a conqueror.
More than a conqueror, right? Because a conqueror can be not such a nice fellow, right? Hitler was a conqueror. More than a conqueror. Spot on. Spot on. But it's similar energy, isn't it? We're going to go into that. Because it's how that energy is used, developed, right? And watched over that's important in men. So we'll be getting to that shortly. How about he engages life and never withdraws from it? I'm going to engage. I'm not going to withdraw. Right? This is a heroic figure, right? You know, right? There's a challenge. I'm there. I'm not going to back off. This is attributed to the heroic parts of men, and we admire that. How about this piece about the use of a tool like a sword? Many of these have an amulet, an instrument, a special sword, the Jedi Knight, right? A lot of these have a baton, or Thor had a hammer. These are tools that they use, right? The samurai has a sword. They're represented as an extension of their power, right? And what could we use these things for?
Actually, I'm going to add some more things for you too. And thanks to Tony, to John, and Strategic Dad for tweeting it out, the conversation. But Strategic Dad, Greek means super conqueror. A warrior is a super conqueror.
Thank you for the definition. That's right.
Regeneration LBC says the warrior has presence, energy emitted even in silence.
Isn't that something?
That's the strong. Yeah, that's the idea of warrior. Yeah.
You see that?
Sarita T. Douglas lives intentionally and on purpose.
On purpose and with intention. Isn't that a wonderful attribute? Isn't that? Absolutely correct. I'm going to write that with everyone. Make some notes, everybody. We're going to come back to these. With intention. Wow. And integrity.
There's also a warrior is a visionary. And also a strategic again, an old Celtic saying, never give a sword to a man who can't dance.
That's a wonderful. Yeah, you've heard me say that.
Yeah,
this is part of an old and true training. They would have young men go to the gardens and learn to appreciate life, and learn how to dance and interact with the feminine before they ever gave them a sword. So if you're going to use that sword, mister, realize that you may be taking a life. And if you're too young and you're too naive and you don't have those things, if you don't appreciate those things, you can wield that sword in a way that we're going to talk about later that can be very destructive. So an appreciation of what life is, that's called being in the garden and being with the feminine first. Learning how to dance before you give that man a sword. Wonderful, beautiful teaching. Long gone. Who was it that brought that up?
Strategic Dad.
About the sword?
Strategic Dad. Well done.
Strategic Dad.
Well done. A thinking man right there. Does the hero take responsibility?
Well, if they're setting the mission, I mean, I think that's another one of those characteristics that's inherent of a warrior. You know, they set a goal. They have a purpose. And someone said it earlier or alluded to it. They've got an outcome in mind for their efforts. You know, they're just not slinging that sword around and just wiping people and things out. They have a very intentional focus and an outcome. And I think that drives how they deal with everyone that they encounter. I think that's an important part of a warrior. Just to go, you know, aimlessly through, you risk harm to yourself and your mission and everyone else.
And that's another version of them that we're going to being connected to something, having a mission. We're supposed to do something, completing the mission. We see that in soldier work a lot. We're here to take down that bridge. No more, no less. Do the mission, right?
Right.
He has the capability to withstand pain. Yeah.
Yeah. And Glenn, go ahead.
He may have pain on the inside, but he doesn't show it on the outside.
Yeah. And, sometimes it's not just his pain, it's the pain of others. Sometimes warriors can get distracted by the pain of other people and, get caught in their own compassion. And, there's a part of warrior that I think a lot of people sometimes forget is that, and warriors forget, I wouldn't say that people forget, warriors forget. Not everybody's going to make that journey. I've said this 1,000 times. Warriors can get trapped by trying to, that all of the assets that we attribute to them can also be detriments to, to their journey. And, seeing pain in other people can sometimes take the focus away from the warrior's mission. So, those are the skill sets, as Glenn, and I know you're going to go through this over the next couple, several weeks. These are skill sets that just are inherent to a warrior to know how to nurture when compassion is relevant and when it needs to be applied and when it's a threat to the mission.
Absolutely. So this decidedness,
we got some more.
This training and this skill, this power, this accuracy. These are refinements, right? Great refinements of the man that allows him to be on mission and do his mission and do his mission very well. Dr. Vibe.
I just want to let's give some shout outs to some people joining in. Ava Laura, Kimberly, and Tashi, thank you so much for stopping by. Some more characteristics. Sarita T. Douglas, compassionate.
Warriors being compassionate, huh? She's up in the advanced stages of warrior. We'll get to that. Compassionate.
Regeneration LBC says sexy, attractive, sultry.
Isn't that something? When you speak of the masculine in certain ways, isn't it? It's attractive to men and it's attractive to women. It is. Male aggression channeled in the right way for the right purposes is incredibly attractive, and it's incredibly powerful and useful and needed in our world. And this is what we're doing here. We're going to differentiate the differences, because on the other side of this coin, I believe women in particular had suffered at the hands of warrior energy gone wrong. Male aggression, honed in the wrong direction, is horrific. We're going to get to that soon.
Well, we're halfway through the show.
I could do all this in this aspect. So
you got to make it move, my brother.
I'm going to move to some kind of neutral lines of the warrior, meaning these things can be good or bad. So, for instance, the warrior avoids self-consciousness, meaning he's not self-conscious. He's doing the job, right? Now, this is being emotionally unavailable, or touches the world sparingly with his emotions. Now, while in warrior doing the task, doing the mission, this is good. This is what gives them an intense, wonderful focus to get the job done. If I'm easily distracted, I'm not going to finish anything. So we've been talking about warriors in this superhero kind of a way, or in a very narrow way. We need warrior in our lives too. What gets you to work in the morning every single day? What is it that lets you finish that job, to make that deadline, to stick with things when it really is horrific to get through? This is your warrior, man. What is your... Go ahead.
Glenn, can I just... Yeah, that's one of the things I asked my dad a number of years ago, because he worked for a long period of time. And I just asked him, Dad, how did you do it? How did you get up every morning and just go and travel the miles and do what you had to do? Because to me, he's one of my warriors. How did you get up and do it? And that's, I ask people who I feel as or warriors, how do you do it? How do you just keep on keeping on? Because a warrior, that's another characteristic. They keep on keeping on.
The self-sacrifice to go. That's the ability to endure pain, and that's not a pointy stick in the eye, folks. That's the day-to-day commitment that says, I'm sticking with this. I'm hanging in with this family. I'm raising my children. I am going to go to a job I hate, not because I'm a martyr. This is what we got to watch, though, as men, being a martyr, but because I'm committed. I'm committed to my ideals. I'm committed to my promises, and I'm committed to something greater than myself. So let's put this wonderful, loving attributes that we like about the warrior. What really makes him humane and what makes him admirable is that he serves a greater purpose than just himself. Right?
Yep.
He's in service. I am giving up a part of me and dedicating my focus and my life and my energy, my pain for something greater than me, my family, my children, a purpose, a mission. Maybe I'm a warrior for God, right? To dedicate a big portion of my life to dealing and pushing, being emotionally unavailable to be dissuaded is a wonderful, beautiful aspect and admirable. And we need to grow that in our men, right? And already we're at the halfway mark, so let's move on. Let's describe the warrior gone wrong. Let's do that. Okay? So that same energy, right? That same power, that same focus, right? That same determination, but without a greater cause. That's maybe self-serving. Let's talk about that warrior. Dr. Vibe, give us a description what that kind of warrior looks like to you.
That person is all about themselves, and they will do anything and go through, over, around anybody for themselves.
Yeah.
It's all about them, and they don't care what path they leave behind them.
Yeah. Bodies fall everywhere. I don't care.
Bodies fall. Exactly. They don't care. They don't have any thought of legacy. It's all about them. It's all about the here and now. What can I do to get what I want for me? It's all about me. What about me? What about me? What about me? Me.
Dr. Vibe, can you describe some of the attributes of, let's call it what it is. We're calling it a shadow version of the warrior. It's a shadow warrior.
There you go.
Give us some description of that, Dr. Thompson. How do you see that manifest in the world? Tell me.
Aggression. It's just misplaced aggression. We talked about assertiveness. When I look at the difference between assertiveness and aggression, assertiveness is the warrior who's working in all the positive dynamics that we've talked about, and I see aggression in the warrior who's not in a very positive, like Dr. Vibe said, who's selfish, or who doesn't have the skill set yet to respond to his, dissatisfaction or displeasure. And I think, to me, where I see it most often displaced is in the form of aggression, true aggression, and that's minimizing others. We see it in bullying, whether it's gender-based bullying or whatever. But that's where I see it applied the most. So
the warrior that we admire, let's call it the warrior in his fullness, because he's an aware individual. He realizes he's serving something greater than himself. And so he's using that power. And now get this, I'm going to bounce back to the warrior in his fullness, meaning he's aware. He understands what his power is about. It's okay for him to tear things down that need to be torn down. So I wanted to finish it up before we move on. Because a good warrior will tear down what needs to be tear down. Right? Destructive government programs. Huh? Right? Right? Old systems, fascist systems, right? Right? Dysfunctional, right? Things happening in your neighborhood, right? They got to be torn down. Right. But that same energy is the one that only tears down what needs to be torn down to build what needs to be built. Bam, bam, home run, warrior. Bam. Yeah. Warrior in his form. Warrior we admire. The men we want developed in that way. So the shadow pole of the warrior, let's quit mincing words. He's a sadist. He don't care.
that's pretty much.
We got someone coming
Yeah.
on, Glenn, and we
He
got a
abuses
lady.
himself and
Just
others.
body count.
A lady.
Right? Right?
Hey,
Yeah.
Tashi, how are you? We can't see you. Oh, well, she's trying to come on. Keep on
So-
going, Glenn.
Power used in this way, aggressive power, right? That's not serving anything greater, that has no mission, but yet it has the same attributes, meaning it's disconnected emotionally. Huh? It's the same attributes, but turned vicious, right? Compassion, focus,
Oh, good.
no compassion,
Good.
but intense focus. It must be done. Maniacal, bodies in the wake.
Have a question from Strategic Dad. Is a good warrior one who is under authority?
Well, yes. Well,
Glenn, can I take that
please
one?
do, Dr. Vibe.
Can I
please
take
do.
that one? And I learned this from Glenn used to ask me is when we first met early on, and I found it the most confounding question. I thought it was simple. Who do you serve? You know, once he identified that I'm in warrior mode, that's my primary operating mode. The question was, he kept asking me, whom do you serve? And I think, you know, the question that was put, I think that's a Strategic Dad under, you know, is a good warrior one under whose authority. And, you know, to me, that warrior, and I think, Glenn, you explained it this way, the warrior picks up his sword, chooses his king, who he's going to serve. Sometimes warriors pick up a sword and they will serve a tyrant. Sometimes they will pick up a sword and they'll serve a true king with a noble purpose. And that, to me, I think that's why it's such a relevant question. Sometimes warriors don't know any better. And we start talking about fatherhood. We have young men who are being raised by tyrants who, in the boys' eyes, that's their king. And they develop, tyrant behavior. They pick up their sword and they identify with tyrants. And likewise, those who identify with noble men. Hence why this type of conversation is so relevant. You know, but this is one of the things that I found, you know, who do you serve? And I think warriors early on, and there are different stages Glenn is going to share. I think early on, we start sometimes by serving our own noble purpose, and then find our kings, right? And sometimes our kings are in front of us.
These are what we're establishing here, right, is the core parts of masculinity. And thank you, Dr. Thompson. Men can develop in any of these directions. In fact, you can see them shift depending on their circumstance, their ability to deal with something or not, from being very noble to very abusive. So what is this about, right? And this is what we bring out in each other. We call this out. We're going to get to this later in the program. So the warrior gone south, right, in shadow, is a sadist. The truth of it is the sadist has a very slim grasp on his own worthwhileness. Leaders of revolutions. How many have seen a leader of a revolution that's against a tyrant, and they get in, and they're just as tyrannical as the sadist that they said they were going to dethrone? We see this in gangs. We see this in the Middle East all the time. And the next leader is worse than the one before, but he was the one that was going to take out the enemy. This is very, very fearful in our world. Male aggression has been labeled, well, in some ways rightfully so. It's absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's because when men get too close to this power and it's unregulated, it can become horrific. Oh, we're at 8:12 already. So I have to move to the third pole. I have to move to the third piece.
Glenn, just to interrupt you for like 20 seconds. The subtitle for this conversation tonight was "Men, do you have the power, or does the power have you?"
I hope I can get to that. So, you have to stay with us, folks. We have the 2016 is going to be all this. So that is the question. Say that here in the sadist part. Men and women, watch for this. Watch for this in your men. Not just being a hero, because a hero is kind of a boyish version. The hero will do stupid things. The soldier is like a white knight. He does the right thing. The warrior or samurai, right, looks to the next best thing. That's where we want men to progress from. As we're young boys, we want to be the hero. When we're in our mid-20s, we want to be the white knight, the guy who's just doing everything right. But as we season as men, we realize there's battles like a samurai where we should put away our sword so we can fight another day. So the piece I want to get to is that's when a man has possession of his power. When the power has possession of you, men, is when you flipped into your sadist. You are no longer in control of that archetype, that warrior. It now has control of you. Yeah. So that's the question of the second part of tonight. Do you have the power, or does the power have you? Third part of the warrior. He's absent. He's a coward. Three parts of the warrior. The one who is mature and understands, the one that abuses, and the one that can't get out of the dirt. Can't defend himself. Can't get himself dedicated to anything. Can't see it through. Runs from his obligations. Do we know that one too? Yeah. This is all part of the warrior. If you have it right, it's a powerful, wonderful, admirable, needed trait in our world. We're honored and blessed, and we even said we were called sexy because of it. How about that? If we get it wrong, we're abusers. We're stomping out life. We're not serving anybody but ourselves. We're missionaries. Yeah, we could be a gun for hire. We don't care. Get the mission done. Or it's all about me. But men, what happens when you don't have enough warrior? Dr. Vibe, what happens to men when they don't have enough warrior?
They go into the cave.
And what does that mean to them and the people around them when they go into the cave? They're hiding, in other words. They go hide.
Hiding. They're hiding. They go into the cave because they don't feel that they have this image of being a warrior, and when they can't live up to that image, they hide. They hide physically, they hide mentally, they hide emotionally. They hide in their shell.
What's the impact of that and consequence of that? What would you think?
The impact to them personally is that can be many things, and each one of us on this square here can give stories of that. And I'm sure there's some people in our audience tonight. Some of them are very minor, and some are very major and critical.
Dr. Thompson, talk to us about the impact and possible consequences of not having enough warrior in your life, in your bones, as men. Are you with us, Dr. Thompson?
I'm sorry, Glenn. I called just part of that.
Okay.
I heard bone. Yeah, okay. I caught just part of that.
Yeah, your connection is not the greatest. One other thing, Glenn, I just want to say, Regeneration LBC has said they hypermasculate.
Let's go there now. So here's the three parts of the masculine, and we're going to have this in every single archetype. Up on the top is when it's in its fullness. It knows what's going on, and it's relating to the world in a way that's pretty functional. I think we all probably have that part where we're doing pretty good. And then there's the part where it slips into the active pole, the sadist. But on the other side of the sadist, you push him, there's a coward. And what we just heard was what really does happen. They bounce from one to the other. These are the passive and active poles of the shadow version of the warrior. Men, this is how we get wired, and how we deal or not with our aggression, with our ability to be assertive, and how we call each other out in accountability. And we catch ourselves, as we talked before, with the lies we tell. These are clues to our shadow behavior. And the only way to deal with shadow is to call it into accountability. And I do that with men like this. So hear this, everybody. It's one thing to have the aha. Wow, this is a part of the hero energy, the warrior energy, the samurai energy that's absolutely glorious and has the potential to save the world. Every building that was ever built, every city that was ever raised, right? Any war that's ever won, every invention was because some warrior energy was behind it saying, this must be. And the wonderful things like churches and civilizations and art and intellect and growth has all been because of dedicated, connected to something bigger than themselves and wanting to see it through. This is marvelous. And we need to hold up and celebrate this in our men. And we need to call each other out, men, on our shadowy behavior.
Yes.
We need to call each other out on our shadowy behavior. Being a tyrant is not okay. Men, to have tyrants in your home, in your neighborhood, at your work, it's not okay. And if you don't have the kind of warrior you need to stand up to your obligations, to see things through, to dedicate yourself to something greater than you, we got some work to do, men. We got some very important work to do.
Hey, what's up, Tony?
Good evening, gentlemen. How's everybody doing?
Great, man. Good to see you, Tony.
Blessed and highly favored. How are you?
I'm doing great.
How you doing? Fantastic. You obviously have something you want to share, so please do. We are looking forward.
Tell us about your warrior.
Well, before we talk about my warrior, I was just wondering if you could expand on what you meant by the shadow warrior, because I think that is something that needs a little bit more exploration, and I was hoping that you would do that, and that's why I popped in.
Very good. It's hard to give these things names because I can call him a good warrior and a bad warrior. I don't want to call it a bad warrior, right? So what we call it, it's really a Jungian term. It was coined by Carl Jung, the great psychologist, and then Dr. Robert Moore, who I have the pleasure of knowing and lives in Chicago. There are many books on masculinity. It's called a shadow version because it's the, let me put it this way, shadow. Okay, I'll give a description of shadow. Shadow is what we hide, repress, or deny.
Okay.
Get that? Anything that I mentioned as shadow, a shadow warrior, is what we hide, repress, pretend it's not there, or deny it's there. So any shadowy behavior, right, is basically coming from a shadowy place where it's being hid, repressed, meaning I don't even get that I'm doing it, or I'm in denial. I ain't doing that. What are you talking about? This is dangerous. We call it shadow. And what we look to do for each other as men is to bring the shadow forward. If I know, and I have this propensity, I could be a tyrant, I have to keep an eye on my shadowy behavior, because if I lose the power and the power gets me, I'm going to do some damage. I'm going to do some real damage to relationships and myself. And before I wake up and get what happened, something came over me, there's bodies laying everywhere. I can't go back and fix this anymore. Shadow, what I hide, repress, and deny. And we're calling shadowy behavior shadow versions that are either destructive or absent. And these two interchange. We bring them up into the light, they get harder and harder to exist. Because now they're out of shadow, and the only way to do that is through accountability. Which means I'm taking responsibility for the impact and consequences of my actions and my inactions. Get this, everybody. Accountability. I take responsibility for the impact and the consequences of my actions and my inactions. Shadow has a very hard time standing in defense of real accountability because Shadow does not want to take responsibility for the impact and consequences. Get this. This is how we grow men. And it's not to shame and blame, it's to bring it into the light and say, what is the impact of your tyrannical behavior? What is the consequence? Is that how you want to live your life? And what are we going to do to clean it up? When we do that in the presence of other men, I start to now move away from Shadow and become the warrior in his fullness. I know we need to serve something greater than me. I know I have to channel my energy right or it's going to destroy. And I need good men in my life. Huh? That keep an eye on me and call me out. This is not instinct, everybody, and we're almost done. This is a tutelage of men. When we see gangs and tyrannical behavior, you're seeing an absence of kingship. Period. These young men are not, they're not being guided by older men. Go ahead, Dr.
Okay, I'm going to stop there. Tony, does that give you a little bit clearer? Has that cleared you a little bit? You're scratching your face.
Well, I think he was about to go where I was hoping that he would go. And the connection was breaking up. And I guess I was asked the follow-up question I was going to ask is, do you see young men who are killing each other that look like themselves? Do you see them as shadow warriors, or would you put them in another category?
The best way I can reference that, I think you're close. Yes. If anybody knows the story of Lord of the Flies, it's when young men were abandoned on an island and they wind up virtually almost cannibalizing themselves and turning into tribes and doing horrid rituals on each other to try to become men. Without the guidance of older men in this regard, younger men try to initiate themselves and they do horrific things to try to make themselves into men. And so yes, they are shadow versions of a warrior. They are shadow versions of the king. And they're looking for love. They're looking for connection. They're looking for a sense of belonging. And not being guided by older men like here to help them through those passages. That's why I say this is not instinct. The instinct is to become like animals. Men need tutelage to channel this energy so that it's rewarding to us as men to be productive and to be strong. Right? Not to be the superhero that dies for anything, but the kind of samurai that stands vigilant and strong because he's connected with something greater than himself. This is not instinct again, this is tutelage. I know we're just about done, but so let me try to wrap this piece up for me. You men are welcome to stay. We're looking to do a series on this. This was an exploration into the warrior. This is a part of every man. How it's developed is about his circumstance. How it's developed is about what he encounters in his life and what he thinks is his way of coping and saving himself. So I'm not calling these things bad. I'm just saying this is real. It's a part of every man. And part of our job as men is to nurture our young men, to know the difference and guide them. To find it rewarding being productive, strong, powerful, committed men in this world. I have to go, so I'm going to sign off. This is Glenn Barker. I'm with the Mankind Project. If you'd like to build a men's community, maybe you have a men's group in your town, in your organization, get a hold of me. I'm at 312-243-6743. You can find Glenn Barker on Facebook, MKP Chicago. You can find on the internet. We're also on Twitter. Thanks for being with us. I hope it was fun for you. Stay with us. We're doing 3 more with the King and the Lover and the Magician. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Good night, Glenn.
Thanks.
And I am I'm Dr. Thompson. You guys can reach me at Twitter at drteducates.com, and you can also visit my website, lighthouseeducationfoundation.org, to find out a little more about what we do. And you can also email me at drteducates, drteducates.com. I'm in Virginia, getting ready to go visit with my son. So I'm going to head out, and enjoyed it.
Right.
Great show, guys. See you next week.
All right. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning The Dr. Vibe Show. I have hosted and produced over 2,000 epic conversations over the last 10 years. And what makes our conversations epic? We don't do interviews. We do conversations.